quickly go up here.
Good evening. It is 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. And this regular meeting of Sandpoint Planning and Zoning Commission is now called to order in City Council Chambers at City Hall, 1123 West Lake Street, Sandpoint, Idaho. For the record, I am Vice Chairman Mose Dunkel presiding. Also present are Commissioners Grant Simmons, Slate Camp, Amelia Boyd, Ben McGran, and Wayne Benner. Commissioner John Hastings is absent tonight. If everyone will please stand, we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any general announcements from commissioners or from staff? Okay. Moving on, we'll need approval of the September 5th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting minutes.
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes and the minutes are approved. Okay, next item on tonight's agenda is a public hearing on a conditional use permit, city application number PCUP 3-0003. A notice of public hearing was published in the Bonner County Daily Bee, the city's newspaper of record, on August 29th, 2023. I will now recite the order of procedure for the public hearing. Number one, explanation of the subject of the hearing by city staff. 2, presentation by the applicant. 3, opening of the public hearing, at which time the public may provide testimony. 4, closing the public hearing. 5, the commission deliberates. No new information may be provided after the hearing has been closed, with questions directed only to city staff during deliberation. For the record, any written comments received were included in the meeting packet or otherwise provided to the commission. I appreciate your continued patience as we get through all of this information and notes for the record. And at this time, I would like to ask for your specific attention as I recite the city's general rules for participation during public meetings. First, public comment opportunities during meetings are for comments only. Do not direct any questions to the commission or to staff, and do not approach the dais. Also, now that the meeting is underway, please do not approach the clerk or other staff up here at the front tables, as this disrupts the meeting. You may inquire of staff in the back of the room who can provide assistance if needed. All remarks shall be addressed to the commission as a whole and not to any single member. The person speaking shall face and address only the commission and shall not turn and address staff or members of the audience. Members of the public are asked to please exercise self-control, to participate in our meeting in an orderly manner, and to focus on the specific issue at hand and avoid personalizing debate. Those speaking shall not make personal, impertinent, slanderous, or profane remarks to any member of the commission, staff, or the public. Disorderly or boisterous conduct, including loud, threatening, or abusive language, whistling, speaking out of turn, clapping, or other similar acts which disrupt or disturb or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of the meeting is not allowed. We will proceed with this item, starting with an introduction of the application by city staff, followed by the explanation of the request by the applicant. Please note that commissioners should address their questions to the applicant at this time. I will now ask for confirmation from each commissioner that you have had no ex parte communication or contact that you may have no conflict of interest pertaining to this request?
None.
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 Okay, hearing none from anybody, I think we're all good to go. I will now yield the floor to City Planner Amy Tweeten for a introduction of this request and explanation of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Again, this public hearing is for a daycare at 1039 Cedar Street. And the request is to increase home daycare from 6 to 11 children. The property is shown on this map is surrounded by RM multifamily zoning. In the RM district, a daycare for between 6 and 12 children is a conditional use. Conditional uses are considered and decided by the Planning and Zoning Commission following public testimony and deliberation pursuant to Sandpoint City Code 996. Part of the submittal was a site plan shown here. As shown, the property has a fenced yard with sidewalk access on Cedar Street. A daycare with up to 12 children and a single teacher is required to have a minimum of 2 parking spaces, which on the site plan are shown to be accessed off of the alley to the rear of the property. And then the applicant in the narrative also explains the staggered drop-off time for students as an attempt to minimize traffic impacts. This is the floor plan of the house. Again, this is the applicant's residence. And per the building code, a daycare of less than 12 children is considered a residential use. So the main requirement and included in the recommended conditions of approval is for adequate egress. That would include a minimum of 2 exit doors with 32-inch clear opening width when open at 90 degrees. Again, Sandpoint City Code 996 provides specific procedures and requirements associated with a conditional use permit. And that requirement is that the commission must make findings based on the 9 criteria of granting a CUP. I'll go through briefly the 9 criteria with a brief staff analysis. The first criteria is that the conditional use will in fact constitute a conditional use as established on the official schedule of regulations for the zoning district. Daycares are listed between 6 and 12 children as a conditional use in the RM zoning district under section 9422. The second criteria is that the use be harmonious with and in accordance with general objectives or with any specific objective of the comprehensive plan or applicable sections of Sandpoint City Code. This property is located within the context area 3, which is a primarily residential area in the comprehensive plan, but it promotes walkable neighborhoods. Daycare is consistent with that context area. And a neighborhood daycare also is consistent with several of the comprehensive plan goals, including P3 education that establishes an environment where children excel in school, as well as reducing vehicle dependence for getting children to daycare. The third criteria is that the use will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be harmonious and appropriate with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and that such use will not change the essential character of the same area. The home daycare currently exists, and it will continue to maintain the residential character of the neighborhood. The fourth criteria is that the use not be hazardous or disturbing to existing neighboring uses. Based on the children numbers and staggered drop-off times, the daycare traffic and parking, which tend to be the biggest uses when, or biggest issues when a use like this is introduced, should not be unreasonable for the neighborhood. The fifth criteria is that there has to be adequate public services and utilities, and not overburden the facilities. Again, the residential daycare will not create excessive capacity issues. The sixth criteria is that it will not create excessive additional requirements for public services and utilities and will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. A residential daycare will not create additional costs for public services or utilities and will actually help the economic welfare by allowing parents to work. 7, will not involve uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment, and conditions of operation that will be detrimental to any person, property, or the general welfare by reasons of traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glare, or odors. As stated previously, based on the numbers of children and staggered drop-off periods, there should not be a detrimental effect from traffic. We'll have vehicle approaches to the property which shall be designed so as not to create an interference with traffic on surrounding public roads. The parking spaces for the daycare are shown off the alley, so there is not additional curb cuts on Cedar Street. And then Cedar Street itself is approximately, the pavement is 40 feet wide, which provides sufficient space for vehicles to park while dropping off children and allow traffic to flow at the same time. And the final criteria is that the use will not result in destruction, loss, or damage of a natural, scenic, or historic feature of major importance. There are no natural, scenic, or historic features of major importance that will be impacted by the daycare. As part of the CUP process, we have received several comments. We've received 9 comments in support of the request, 3 that are neutral, and then 1 that is opposed to the request. Based on the required criteria, staff recommends 5 conditions that should be incorporated in order for this daycare to meet the 9 criteria of a CUP, as well as the health department and building code requirements for this daycare. The first is the approval is for a maximum of 11 students. That is based on the application materials. 2, building code requirements, as previously stated, require a minimum of 2 exit doors with 32-inch clear building opening width when open to 90 degrees as determined through inspection by the building official. A child care license for more than 6 children shall be obtained through the Panhandle Health District. The current business license shall be updated to reflect change in number of children served from 6 to 11. And then if any signage is to be installed, that sign permits are obtained before installation. Again, this is the subject property, Cedar Street to the north, North Ellett to the west, Ruth Avenue to the east, and Oak Street to the south. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any questions for staff at this time?
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So if I understand, the conditional use permit allows up to 12 kids? Is that right?
It does, yes.
So but there's a specific 11 number mentioned.
Right, that's based on
Does it-
what the applicant asked
Got it.
for.
Okay, got it. Well, we can get to that when we have presentations. Thanks.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay, with that, I will now yield the floor to the applicant's presentation. If the applicant's representative will please step to the podium and introduce yourself.
Hello. Hello. should I just say hi? I'm Shannon. Nice to meet you. It's really nice to be here. I've wanted to come to a council meeting for a while, so I definitely have a reason now, but I hope to keep coming. Well, so I wrote a few things out, but I'd just like to start by saying thank you to you all for your service for our town. Yeah, and especially thank you to Sarah, who's been with me every step of the way, navigating a very foreign language of city codes and zoning. And also, thank you to my neighbors, Tani and Penny, for being here tonight in support. And also to all my neighbors who have written in, but who were not able to be here. And of course, thank you to some of the parents in my little play group that are here tonight to share. And that is an honor to have their children in my care. And that leads me to why we're here tonight, and that is for the children of this town, Sandpoint. I was holding one of the little ones today, and I'm nervous for the meeting when I was holding this little girl. I was like, this is why I'm here. And it's pretty simple. I've been having 6, but I'd like to have a few more. I actually don't think I want 11 at this point at all. I think a little less than that would be great. So I've been coming to Sandpoint since 2006, and I've been teaching for over 20 years. And I finally, I was able to buy a house in town, a modest house in 2016, and returned last year in the fall of 2022, was asked to start a little play group for some friends. And I checked in, and it was clear under 6 was legitimate. So I started with that, and I actually talked to all my neighbors first. I went and introduced myself. I'm from a small town, population 50. I grew up on 20 acres surrounded by the wilderness, and where I grew up, like, community meant something, and not just being nice to each other, but actually doing things for each other. And I started to establish that already with my neighbors here. And it's also what I really love to teach the children. We do that for each other in our little community at our play group, but there's moments where we like to reach out to the neighbors. So I piloted the program, and I knew that traffic was going to be the main concern. So the parents in my school, not my parents, are well aware that I've been kind of strict and consistent with asking them to be very careful about not impeding traffic, and that the children exit on the sidewalk side, and we have staggered drop off and pickup. So I'll let some of my neighbors attest to their experience of that, but I think we've streamlined it pretty well. And I think just adding a few more would be no problem. And so as a small business owner in this town, local economy is really important to me. And I have some amazing parents in my play group, and there's been interest, of course, for a few others to come in. And I have a newsletter, and I really enjoy sharing about local businesses to the parents in my school. So I've had friends come and build a fence. I'll recommend, workers and also other small businesses in town. That's also part of that community feeling. That's what drew me to this town, actually. I've traveled extensively over the last 20 years teaching, and Sandpoint became home for me. So I'm not so used to being in the city, and so as far as a town, so I am still learning about all the requirements there. But if I ever misstep, it's just simply out of ignorance. So I'm here to learn what I need to do to have a proper educational daycare. And so I've spoken with Stephanie at Panhandle Health, and she's actually going to be visiting my house tomorrow for an initial consultation. So the steps towards daycare are already underway. And as far as all those steps, there's a lot. My first priority is always to the children. So any eyes on the health and safety of my place are always welcome. So it is my understanding that this property is in context area 3 under code 9422. Daycare for up to 11 children is, or 12 children is allowed. And I had requested 11 with a CUP approved in the residential family unit. I mean, yeah, I think that's most of what I want to say. Like I said, I'm just really interested in having good relations with my neighbors is really important to me. And also having safety. So I feel like I'm pretty aware of the things that need to be in place for that to happen. And I think I've already made steps towards doing that. And I think adding a few more children would be a very organic process at this point. And I'd like to close, or at least at this moment, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'd like to share some pictures. How do I do that again? Let's see, I think we can do it. Thanks, Sarah. A little bit. So, oh, I didn't mention, sorry, an important element is that clearly there's a need for childcare in our town. Waldorf, Selkirk, a few others, they all have waiting lists. And Cynthia's, our beloved Cynthia's, has recently closed. And there's a real need for in-home childcare where it's a small group, it's intimate, it's well held. Like that's what makes what I do unique. I don't want to be a big facility. I don't want to pack them in there. I am interested in the well-being of the children because I truly believe children are the future of our society. I mean, I think we all can agree to that. And so my main passion with what I do is developing community. And this is kind of a funny picture to be staring at, is developing community with the children. So we do seasonal tables. This is, thank you. Oh yeah, thank you. This is just a seasonal table for winter. So I instill awareness of the seasons and of the world around us. I have done pottery with older children, and I hope to offer pottery classes in the future, small classes. Those are children's pottery. I teach hands-on skills. So all my children learn finger knitting. This is actually knitting with your fingers, no needles. And that's a headband. And my children will learn to knit hats and blankets, my older ones. This is my gate, and I employed a local woodworker to do my fence, and I've since given at least 3 to 4 recommendations for him because people love my gate. And that's a metal work done by a local friend as well. All the children have their own symbol for where they hang their hat and coat, so they feel welcomed and organized. I have a very organized situation and environment for them. They feel very at peace there. That's our little sandbox that I built. That's an example of some of our puppets. I do puppet play. We have no screens in my preschool, 0. And I'm on my phone. I'm not on my phone at all, unless, something comes up. There's more finger knitting. So we made some coasters, and we work with real wool. So I've gone to local farms and gotten wool, and we make pictures out of wool. And so we learn about the process of animal husbandry, even though currently I am not on a farm, which I used to be. That's our little garden, and I believe children should be around beauty. And so our parents come in and do projects, and that's a flower printing project. And so I really welcome parent inclusion. And one of the times we did drop off May baskets for neighbors. So you might hear about that later. This is some dried flowers. We dye silks with them, so you can dye with marigolds, so it turns gold. I have the biggest Lincoln log set I've ever seen. They love it. Those are really big Lincoln logs, some more art and some more puppetry. We do watercolors. That's our little patio set. We learn chores. So the children wash the table. They actually love washing the floor. Like they love learning chores. So that's one of the things we do. The parents are very happy about that. That's part of my yard. We planted those strawberries. Thank you, Tani, for the strawberry shoots. And we go do field trips where the parents are there and we support the local economy. And I'm continually doing outreach, little field trips to support local farms and local businesses. And we like to work. That's kind of a nondescript, back shot. I do not post publicly at all on any social media. This is the first picture I've ever put up, for non-parents, but you have the backs of them. So I'm very protective of them, but we learn a lot of purposeful work. There's more of our toys, and I don't know. I just threw in this picture of what the parents like to pack. Like I really support healthy eating. And I built that play structure. So I'm a builder. My dad taught me how to build. So the children see me building and doing it. That's, by the way, it's way more finished than that. Probably shouldn't have it. And that is the said tree that the one complaint mentioned, we climb trees. This is a bush in my backyard and we like to hang on it. It's a beautiful, we call it the little tunnel. And that's all.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments for the applicant?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
one question. Hey, Amy, could we bring up the slide with the traffic pattern and the parking? Unfortunately, traffic and parking is always such a pain in the, what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's just one sort of question on this. And it's the parking spots in the back. I think it's slide 4.
Oh, the site plan you're asking about.
Yeah,
Here we
thank
go.
you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that guy. There's a fence back there. Are those parking
There's a
spots
double
available?
wide gate.
Got it.
So that slides off. The double wide gate slides off and I've measured and I've considered making that official parking before I was told that. But yeah, there's a double wide gate back there that literally comes off the hinges.
So was that opened up to put cars back there?
It can be.
Gotcha.
Okay. We honestly haven't needed it.
Okay.
But it's there and I've measured it and I'd be more than happy to put in the infrastructure tomorrow if that was required of me. It's there. I have parked there. There's room for 2 cars. It's a little bit out of the
Take
way.
some nice property away. Yeah.
Yeah, but I know, honestly, we definitely don't play back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my only question.
Any more questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is there any discussion of expansion of the current buildings to make additional room?
No.
Okay.
No. That's why I don't want to have a lot of children. I don't need any more room at this time.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
do you have a sense of how many folks walk their kids to pick up, drop off versus drive? A neighborhood daycare is sort of a great concept relative to the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's varied. I've had some people come and go. I'd say maybe at this point, a third. I've had more before. We've had some move out of town. So it kind of varies, but definitely a few, but not a majority at this point. And of course,
the staggering of the pickup drop off, is that deconflicted against probably like the public schools and like against?
I actually start at 9.
Okay. Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit stressful for everybody to get out
Those
too
manic
early, but
minutes,
yeah, we have staggered drop off from 8:50 until 9:10. And the parents can share more how it is. I'm not out there managing it all the time, but they know I peeked out like, no. I ask people not to park across the street. Like I don't want anyone in the street. And that's for the safety of the children, first and foremost.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
What time does class end?
3.
Okay.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I haven't noticed a lot of traffic at that time, even though it is the time for public schools. I don't know if it's because everyone's at the public school at 3, but
They get
it's,
out a
it's,
little earlier.
it's
Yeah,
usually
you're
around
right.
3:20 when you
Flex
see
a
our
little bit.
street.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another subject, but my neighbor wants a stop sign right on that corner, but anyway.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So right now you have up to 6.
Yes,
Do you have 6 every day or do you fluctuate,
it fluctuates, yeah, especially if they're sick and that's the other thing, because often if they're sick or they're absent, then our group gets so small. Like there's been like 2. And so, yeah, it fluctuates though, because I don't have them all 4 days a week. I'm 4 days a week, 9 to 3. And I have 2-day-a-week options and 4-day-a-week options. Because, yeah, I think children that young ideally would not have too much away from home.
Sure.
Yes.
So thank you for the service that you've been providing to the community.
Thank you.
And running the daycare. And so adding the kids, I have 2 boys and I've had a hard enough time keeping track of them. Imagine trying to keep track of 11 kids for one person. And I think I'm kind of just responding to some of the comments that have been received by one neighbor. You have glowing comments from a majority, but there is obviously one neighbor that's felt that there's been some unsupervised kids going around. So can you address like how do you manage
Yes,
11 kids?
I'd love to. Again, I don't want to have 11 kids at this time. If I were to get that many, I would have an assistant. I want to have 8, essentially, maybe a few more if they're sick. However, that being said, having been teaching over 20 years, generally a teacher's used to a classroom size of 20 to 30 kids. So I have a lot of experience with really holding a group, and I will let my parents speak to that. But I would like to can I address those complaints directly right now? Is this the time for that, or is that later? To answer your question as well.
That would be the time.
This is, you can present what you like as your presentation. So
Okay, I didn't know if there was a later time for addressing concerns.
You have time to rebut any concerns.
Well,
come
I'll
up.
just speak to it now and
Yeah, that's fine.
so the children are not unsupervised. I don't know what that was about. There were a couple times when we went caroling and that was not school related. And there was another time where we dropped off gift baskets. So that was going on the property of the complaintee, but the parents were there. So it was a whole group of parents and children. It's very clear we won't do that again. It's not wanted, and that's totally fine. And I respect the privacy. I did actually meet the neighbor, Barb, and had told her what I was doing. And she said, "Oh, I don't mind at all. Do what you want." So I hadn't talked to her since then. And I had let everyone know, if you have any concerns, please talk to me, because neighborly relations is important to me. So that was the first time I'd heard of any of this. And I think Penny will address the complaint about the fruit trees. Those are on Penny's property, and I have her permission. So once in a while we walk down the alley to Penny's house, which I'm not sure I want to do anymore, but after that complaint, but we'll see. Not because of you. Anyway. So yeah, the never unsupervised. So I don't know how she could say that, because she just, yeah. Well, we never climb neighbors' trees. We don't never climb the fence. I don't allow them to climb the fence. However, I have potlucks. I have friends over. Maybe there was a time when there was some of my neighbors' friends and different friends riding bikes around. We don't ride bikes. It's not part of our curriculum. I don't have a single children's bicycle. So that addresses that complaint. So as far as managing 11 children, I know I could. I've done it before. I had another school where I previously was, and I had up to 12, which was the legal limit. And because I build community in my group, the older children, and I like the mixed age, I don't actually think it's that healthy to have all the same age in one group. So the older children lend a hand to the younger children. So they have their own helper. And because I'm very rhythmical in my day, the children know what we're doing. It's the same thing every day, and they just flow into it. So I'm very orderly in how I hold the children, and I'm just very confident and able to hold a group of children of all ages. I had a class here in Sandpoint in the public school of 100 children in the gymnasium. So doing a form of movement So it just depends on the circumstance. But of course, because I have 3-year-olds, I would not want to have 20 to 25, which is what I normally hold of older children. So of course, with the younger ones, you want to have a smaller group. They have a little more needs, but I do encourage independence with them. So I'm not, I kind of say that to some of my parents, I also coach that, our job is not necessarily to be servants of the children as teachers and parents, but to guide them how to learn and grow. And so like even putting on shoes, like encouraging them to do that. So a teacher who's going and putting on all their shoes is going to get, frazzled, but we don't do that. They're very capable.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So you're strictly, I think, 3 to 6 years old?
Yes. Yeah,
And so you will
yeah.
just maintain that?
Mhm.
for-
Yeah. I mean, we might have a visitor now and then who's
Mhm.
older, but have to fit well in the group. And that would just be for visiting.
Is it okay for me to ask how much the tuition is or the cost?
It varies depending on how many days. So, I think it's comparable. I've looked, into Waldorf, Cardin, and different schools that are comparable, and it's, less than them if you were to crunch the numbers. It looks about the same if you just look at it on paper. It's kind of complicated because I'm more of a year-round school, so we don't have 3 months off in the summer. So it's very comparable. It's less basically than most of the schools, but it's not like pennies.
Okay. So future looks financially feasible to carry on as long as you'd like.
I think so. Yeah, to make a living wage as a teacher is nice, Basically, thank you for the question. Yeah, it's been tough this year.
Any more questions? Okay,
No.
thank you. We'll now proceed with the public hearing. If you are participating on Zoom and wish to speak, you will need a working microphone on your phone or computer. When your name is called, you will see a prompt on your screen asking if you would like to unmute. You will need to unmute yourself in order to be heard. As announced earlier, those here in chambers who would like to speak will need to complete a sign-up form available at the table by the door and hand it to staff. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. City policy provides that the presiding officer may allow time to be gifted during a public hearing. I will allow this option this evening. If you are present here in the room and would like to gift your time to someone else who is also present here in the room, you may do so. The person gifting their time may do so only once, and the person receiving gifted time may receive only one gift for a total of up to 6 minutes. If you are gifted time, please state that much as you approach the dais. The public hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, can you please call the first person to testify?
Will Bennett?
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for your time. My name is Will Bennett. We are a 3-year transplants into Sandpoint. My daughter is 4 years old. She's been attending Miss Shannon's program for the last year or so. She is a wild and spirited young child, which I love about her. She loves the outdoors, which is part of what I love about this program. The children are outside for a significant portion of their day, rain or shine, which I think helps to harden the kids and get them ready for whatever the world has. That being said, Miss Shannon is very on us to make sure those kids are prepared. So they always have warm layers for cold days. They have warm hats, they have sun hats, they have rain gear. Anytime these things get damaged or dirty, she's always very quick to communicate with us so that we can keep our children comfortable, but at the same time, they can experience the beauty of the world around them, which is very important to me. I am a youth fitness educator and personal trainer. Children go through a significant amount of movement during their days, which I always appreciate. Movement in both pattern and song and things like that. So my daughter's coordination has been increasing. She's got a great memory and she brings those songs home, teaches them to us so that we can use them with her at home as well. She's been leading things like blessings at our mealtime. She's become a more reverent and participatory member of our family. Again, as Miss Shannon has mentioned, the kids do chores at school, and that has definitely carried over to home. She is doing sweeping, she's doing washing, she's doing wonderful stuff and becoming a really active contributing member of our family, which I think will continue to her being a contributing member of the community. The facility, again, has beautiful outdoor space. I really do appreciate the safety Miss Shannon takes. You saw the gate at the front of her house. There is another gate that you go through to get back to the area where the children's play. So again, they are well contained and well protected from outside and safe to be playing outside in a supervised manner. Beyond just the children, I also really appreciate with Shannon fostering a sense of community among the parents. There are regular parent meetings where not only do we get updates on all of our children and how they're doing and tips that we can use at home to help them, but we also get to hear from other parents, struggles they might be having at home, and we can all lend our own voices to each other and ways to kind of build a community with all of these kids as they become friends and classmates. That has even carried over. We have a 16-acre property out in Selly Valley, and we just had a work party with 50 people who came out to our property to help us with projects that we have been struggling with for several years to get done, and we're able to get many things finished off in just a 24-hour span. So I really appreciate that she fosters that welcoming sense, not just at her school, but among all of us parents who participate in her program. That's all I have. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
And Mr. Vice Chairman, for the record, there is no one on Zoom at the moment, so
Thank you.
I'll continue calling people in the room. Tawny McDonald.
Thank you, commissioners. I'm Tawny McDonald. I'm Shannon's neighbor directly across the street. We've been neighbors about 5 years. I'm just here to show my support to her. I've been an educator about 15 years, teaching kinder to now 8th grade. And I got to see some of her teaching skills. She, beyond a doubt, is capable of teaching 11 or 12 or whatever the permit gives her. I don't doubt her ability to teach. So just wanted to come show my support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Penny Cole.
Good evening, everyone. I live on Oak Street and Shannon lives on Cedar Street, and we're one house away from each other. And Shannon is a new neighbor in the neighborhood. I've lived around there for about 40 years. And she's kind of like old Sandpoint used to be. She came over, introduced herself, said, if there's anything I can do to help you, please just call me. And she gave me her phone number. So she's a kind and considerate neighbor. And I do not believe she would do anything to upset the neighborhood. I have 4 lots, skinny lots. So it's about 1/3 of an acre. And I told her, when she told me she was going to do this care center, I said, well, bring the kids down here and let them run around, kick a ball, whatever. And I gave her permission to come into my yard, whether I was home or not, because I still work. I work for the county. And I told her I have fruit trees with more fruit than I know what to do with right now, believe me. And I said, please help yourself to the fruit. The kids can have some fruit if they're allowed to have it. These are tiny kids. I mean, we're talking kids about this tall, cute little girls, sun hats. And to answer your question, Shannon kind of is like the mama hen to these kids. I mean, they're kids, they're all around, but they know she's the boss, but she's kind and she's gentle with them. They come down, they talk to me, they visit with Shannon, and bring little baskets of flowers, dandelions. They think they're great, you know, and they're curious. They ask questions. They sit quietly on the steps. We talk. They're not rambunctious. I've never heard any raucous or any commotion, and I'm just one house down from Shannon. They're too little to climb fences or trees. I mean, these are just darling little girls with little sun hats on that come around and bring you flowers. And I think that you should give her this conditional use permit because she's already doing it and she's doing a great job, and she's providing a service for parents. And obviously the parents trust her with the children. I did write a letter. I expounded a little bit more on this, but I do believe that it would not be a detriment to the neighborhood at all. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mikkel Lee.
Hi, I don't have children at Shannon's school, but Shannon and I met a year or so ago and became fast friends. I am available to her as a sub in the event that she needs help because we have a mutual respect for early childhood development and alignment there. The notion that she would be operating with kids unsupervised is actually pretty laughable to me. She is at one end of the spectrum as far as responsibility and care for children. She's spent decades learning about how to be the best provider she can for children. The space she operates is very reverent. A few times I've had to stop by to drop something off or pick up a book or something, and she's very careful about instructing me to very quietly get it from the porch, and I will, and I can hear her playing the harp in there, or maybe it's nap time. I mean, you can't hear a peep. My kids tear around my neighborhood with the neighbor kids with so much more disturbance than what is happening there. So I really support what she's doing, and I support what it gives to the community, especially that she can do it in her home. As we've revealed, she's not getting rich with this. This is a labor of love for her, and she's found a way to do it and make a decent living in her own home without much overhead. And then she can in turn pass that along to the families, and she's changing families from the foundation up. This is the type of education that we need in our community. And thanks for considering this permit. I hope she can grow her program just to the extent that she wants to and offer a little bit more for more families.
Thank you.
Madeline Gustafson.
Hi there. I definitely want to say that my daughter is in Shannon's program 2 days a week. She's one of the 3-year-olds. I've never had any issue with traffic at all. I've never noticed it being a thing. I can just pull right up and there's not even any other cars around usually, as far as other parents. So that's never been something I've noticed as an issue personally. I also definitely don't see how children could be unsupervised in her space. There's 2 gates that you have to go through and they're too high for most of the children. And actually I have kind of a hard time opening one of them too. So it's definitely, feels very safe. And Shannon has a very organized way of doing things. She's very quick with her communication. I definitely agree with most everything that's been shared here. She's very capable, and it feels like she could probably have more than 12 children, and I'd trust that she could do that on her own, surprisingly. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julia Landis. Candace.
Hello, and thank you for your time tonight. I am a mom of 3, and my youngest one goes to Shannon's and has been for a year. And I can wholeheartedly say that as an educator of 12 years myself, Shannon is one of the most outstanding educators that I've ever experienced. And she has a way of creating a safe space that is filled with so much structure and such a calm energy that there are days when I just want to stay myself and just soak it in. But I have a very high energy little 4-year-old as of yesterday, and she loves Miss Shannon as if she was a member of the family. So for me personally, for our whole family, the experience of having our daughter at Shannon's has just been a huge blessing. And I am a very protective mom with high concerns for safety and very particular ideas of how I want my child to be taken care of, and I trust her 100%. And I know that there's not a lot of parents, and that there's not a lot of teachers who can handle 12 children without losing their mind. And I've done it for 12 years, and I'm certainly one of those who sometimes asks myself whether I should be doing this full time, but Shannon somehow manages to hold those children with such loving authority. And so that's why when I heard about the comment that there were unsupervised children, if there's one teacher that I know that wouldn't happen with, it's her. And as for the concerns of running it in her home and the traffic impact that it could potentially have, I have, again, never experienced any traffic, any backing up or anything. I've certainly been on the receiving end once of being scolded because I did stop once on the wrong side of the road. And I've been very diligent about making sure that that didn't happen again. But I know that if anything like that were to happen, I can attest to the fact that she will certainly speak out and be protective of the interests of her neighbors and very much make sure that all protocols are followed. And yeah, all I can say is it's been an amazing blessing to be part of that community. I think it is an absolutely valuable addition to our whole town, but especially to the life of those children. And I hope you consider granting her that CUP. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fabiola Hart.
Thank you for having me. I second what my fellow mom said. Shannon has a very unique and precious space. And we feel so blessed to have this space for our daughter. She loves Miss Shannon. I also feel very confident that my daughter would never be unsupervised or on the street. The gate, it is very difficult to open. I have a hard time opening it as well. So I think it's mother and father proof as well. And it's just a space. I'm also very protective of my daughter. She's the youngest, the baby, and I didn't want her to have exposure to media. That was very important to us. And there's very few places where you can have your child just have the opportunity to use their imagination and their play in a place that's low stimuli, a place that's quiet, that's intimate. It's like home. But we also wanted her to have the opportunity to have socialization. So it's just the little perfect jam in Sandpoint, very located. I also second that there's no issues with traffic that we've seen. So she staggers. Shannon's very organized. Who comes when to pick up and drop off. We never really see other cars when we pick up or drop off. So it's very quiet. I don't think it's a disturbance to the neighborhood. I also second that it is an addition to the neighborhood because Shannon's fosters community, we were able to meet. We live in Bonners Ferry, so we drive down here 50 minutes every day, back and forth, just so our daughter can have the experience at that school because there's nothing like it. So thank you so much I hope they are able to grant that permit to her because as she said, there's not a whole lot of options here in town. There's as unique as what she offers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leo Hart.
Commissioners, thank you for your time. And I want to just concur with my wife and everyone else here. I think my biggest takeaway with Shannon, I haven't known her that long, but she knows her craft and she's very commanding. She makes no bones about it. You're here for a reason. So you're either going to get with the program or you're not going to be part of the program. And I really appreciate that because it doesn't leave any gray area. We know what is expected of us as parents. And a big part of that is, like she mentioned, pick up, drop off, participation, making sure that our children are having the home life that supports what she's trying to foster within her play group. And we really appreciate that. I know that the backyard and her home, if you go and you tour, you can tell that this is really a place that's been meticulously put together specifically for the children. It's not really a home to live in, and then it's been converted in areas to work as a play group for these children. I mean, she has devoted her life to creating that environment for the kids. The backyard specifically, it's an oasis. It is completely private. As many people have mentioned here, it's very difficult for adults to even get into. And my daughter, I think, has no concern for safety. She has a light in her face when she attends. She's very excited to be part of that. And we're just really glad. We feel like she's an asset to the community. And anything that we can do to help foster that is something we'd like to be part of. So we would ask that she be granted this conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak who has not already? Gordon McKay.
Hello, Commissioners. So last but not least, hopefully, my daughter is a new kind of recruit here with Miss Shannon. And we were in another preschool before this, and I have a younger son as well. And, you know, I think it's really important to harbor these smaller daycares, because the other place where my son's still at, there's a lot of kids, and, you know, it's great. It's great to have a place. You have to put them somewhere when you're going to work, but Miss Shannon's been really special. And the fact that she nurtures the children and, you know, they're outside so much. My daughter has, you know, she's really gained independence in leaps and bounds. The other day she was having a bath and she started saying the days of the week in French. And I was like, I didn't know you were learning French. That's awesome. So yeah, Miss Shannon's doing a great job. She really knows how to hold space. And I'm a very protective dad, and I would never allow my child to be with someone where I would think they wouldn't be able to handle a bunch of children. And Miss Shannon can definitely do that. She is, I would say, better with children than most people I know, for sure. So yeah, other than that, I just really hope you grant this to her, and she's running a really amazing spot. So thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak who has not already? We have no participants on Zoom still, so I believe we are done with testifying.
Okay, the commissioners have any additional questions at this time?
No.
Okay. Okay, so the public hearing is now closed. And no new information may be provided, and questions may only be directed to city staff during deliberation. Let the deliberation begin.
Mr. Chair, I think we can probably keep it pretty brief. Super strong testimony that was remarkably specific. It keeps with the comp plan. Sounds like they might need to get that gate fixed. But
Mr. Simmons, could you move your microphone a little bit
yeah,
closer?
thank you. You missed my joke. But I think I would move to approve at this point.
I would entertain a motion, but I'd just like to say that John missed out on the best planning and zoning meeting we've ever had in my tenure, which is not very long, but so I say that because typically we don't get such a good presentation from an applicant, and really, so round of applause for you for caring about all the details and being very clear. I have no question about what's going on here. And then bringing people to support you is also very important. I mean, that makes a big difference, and a lot of applicants could learn a lot from you. So, I mean, that's a slam dunk in my book, because that's the job. So you did a very good job. So I would entertain a motion unless somebody else wants to add anything.
Nothing. Oh, is this me? Is it me again?
Oh, I was gonna do it.
Please. Oh,
Everybody's
jump in.
Fighting to.
I move the Sandpoint Planning and Zoning Commission, after consideration of the criteria and relevant standards of Idaho Code and Sandpoint City Code, approve the request by Shannon Wheeler? Weiler. I knew I got it wrong, sorry. For a conditional use permit to allow a daycare for up to 11 children at 1039 Cedar Street, subject to the 5 staff recommended conditions. This motion is based on the analysis and facts contained within the staff report, information presented at the hearing, and the finding that with the added conditions, the application is in compliance with the 9 criteria for conditional use permits as outlined in Sandpoint City Code 9-9-6A3.H. And staff has followed the notice procedures applicable to conditional use permits contained in Idaho Code 67-6512 and Sandpoint City Code Title 9, Chapter 9.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
For the record, who was the second? Apologies, thank you. Commissioner Dunkel,
Yes.
Commissioner Camp,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd,
Yes.
Commissioner McGrann,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons,
Yes.
Commissioner Benner.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on. Public comment? On anything?
We do not have any comment cards for public comment. And
That is a new feature to our meetings, right?
we also do not have anyone on Zoom.
Okay, well, then I'd like to thank everybody who has attended this evening, and with no further business before the commission, this meeting is now adjourned at 6:30 PM.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.